Welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. Who vex lose? Good to have you folks here with us. Those of you who are joining us from around the world, folks, welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, it's people like Beatrice Selby and Isabella Butters and Candidaline Indigit who put the international in the international podcast. We broadcast in live from the national capital city of Georgetown, folks. And we are so happy that you guys are here. Believe it or not, it's about 27 degrees outside. There's a 37% chance it's gonna rain this afternoon, but we gonna do what we gotta do. Rain or no rain, that's just the way things are going to be. Yep. Well, rather, I see they've revised that now. It's now a 30% chance it's gonna rain. It's 27 degrees outside. They say it feels like 34. We're grateful nonetheless. We got life, we got breath, and there's a new month ahead of us.
Our month, people, our month, and I'm in the house.
Jarita's here. Did I say Jarita's here? Did I say Jarita's here? Yep.
I am officially a co-host of Below the
mhm.
Belts.
Yep,
I mean,
yep, yep.
I won my badge. Where's my t-shirt? Sorry.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. You just
I
take
need my
over.
t-shirt and my badge.
Just take over.
Right? I want
And your
to
security
be.
pass.
I need my security pass.
Okay. Folks, we have a very special guest this afternoon in addition to Jarita. Being
Yeah.
special, that is. But we didn't tell you also. We tell you it's a secret.
Oh, really?
We tell you.
My goodness, Sheridan.
It's a secret. It's a secret. If you
I
all know,
don't think
don't tell anybody.
I don't think you know how to keep a secret. You know, I have
If
to
you
be
all
very
know.
careful with the secrets I may want to tell you.
If you all know, don't tell anybody.
I can't tell you.
Right? We want to be a secret.
You're gonna put
You
it
know,
out there and then
we
say,
have
it's a
nothing but the
secret.
very best for you guys. Nothing but the very best. And we got great guys coming up.
Yeah.
You're going to agree with me. Pace and Power, Roxanne Alessa Jacobs and Roxanne Alessa Jacobs again and Dolores Tover. And Roxanne Alessa Jacobs yet again. And then Derek Smith. Good to have you, Roxanne. Take over. Let you from Bartica.
Bartica folks, we know to take over. That is correct. We know to do what we have to do.
Take over.
Yes, we take over.
Check. Let's take over. So, guys, great to have you. Great to have you. Great to have you. We're so happy. What are you guys having for lunch, folks? I feel like some Creole lunch.
Creole lunch.
I feel like some Creole.
It's lunch already?
Believe it or not.
It's that time.
Believe it or not.
Funny thing is, I don't think I had breakfast.
When it's 7 degrees outside.
Listen, when you're working hard, there's absolutely no room to remember to even eat sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I had not have breakfast yet. As crazy as that is. I've had tea this morning. I'll have tea again this midday. Well, the cost of living, you know, I may be on the right track. According to the report, I have to decide on which meal I'm having. I may just be having dinner.
Correct is right. Correct is right.
Looking.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Most definitely. We definitely have to do what we have to do, guys. We can't be out here, you know, and pretend that things are all nice and dandy at our end.
Dolores Dover says that she had a great green smoothie. She had a green smoothie.
Beatrice is having chow mein today, you know. Beatrice take her Guyanese meal wherever she is. She does not play.
I see Oriana Lord is here with us. Good to see you, Oriana. Welcome, Oriana. Stick around, Oriana. Do remember to come back again, Oriana.
Yes, that is so true.
Siobhan McDonald. I'm always torn between whether it's Siobhan or Siobhan.
I don't understand what Alec Boom is having their pumpkin. Let me go and see the pumpkin, some squash with chicken. That's a combination there, Sherrod. You gotta try that. Sherrod does not look very willing to try. He looks very iffy on this one.
You know, I'm willing to try anything at least once.
Anything.
Right?
At
least once. You know, they say you only live once, but once is enough.
Once is good enough.
Right.
Once is good enough.
Once is enough.
I do not want to do this life twice.
Right?
Give me this one time. I'm good.
It's good enough if you do it right. Good to see
That
Babita is here. Babita and Brian. Herman Boss is here as well. And Sheena Hazel. Good to have you folks.
Salt, fish, and rice coming here from Roxanne and Jacobs. You know. I haven't had saltfish in quite a while, but when I'm doing saltfish rice, I need to have dal to go with that. It don't make sense
Is
without
it,
that.
I think some folks might be offended a little bit. They would say it isn't say it's not doll.
It's
You
dal.
gotta get it, yes. You
Oh,
gotta
I'm
get a little
sorry.
A in there.
My apologies.
Dal. Everyone is well.
Dal.
I just I never eat. I never eat dal before. What is this
Oh,
fancy
I'm
thing?
serious. You haven't lived
I haven't
until
have.
you've tried.
I have not dal. I have a
Yeah.
dal, but
No, I make dal.
this,
I'll make you some good things.
you
I have
raise
to
dal
invite you into my kitchen. I have to ask some. We'll extend an invitation to you.
you raise dal to art for. Isabella say day there. We see you, Isabella. We
We
see
see
you.
you. We see
Good
you.
to have you there. Good to have you there. Yep.
And Sheena Hazel, I see you also. Paulette
Yeah.
Dean, I see you guys out there in the comment section doing your thing.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting discussion ahead of us. And I think
Oriana Lawrence says she's having some boran chicken. Some bora.
my type of food, my
Yeah.
type
I
of
was
food.
gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
Beams.
Yep,
Beams.
beams.
Let me see how old y'all are. Let me see what's the response.
Don't worry. If you don't know beams, you're know nothing
Let me
yet.
see your age. Show your age. Beams, Oriana. Beams.
Marlon
chicken.
Thomas, this Marlon, I see you said, Marlon saying I dare here. Marlon, this discussion is going to go so much to you. It's going to be your liking because this morning in the morning program, Marlon was asking for the link to have that link share. Well, Marlon, this program is just for you, girl. This is for you. You're gonna have every aspect of the discussion being brought to you this midday. Andrew Griffith is listening. Hey Andrew, how are you doing? And Sheldon Wickham saying
Lisa,
pumpkin
thank you.
with corn. I have never had that.
Pumpkin with corn?
Yes.
I thought you were going to try and get this one.
Oh, I don't know. I'm beginning to rethink that statement altogether.
Pumpkin and corn. That's not too bad. Doesn't sound like a bad combo.
I like pumpkin and I like corn too. So I'm much
Yeah.
I can do veggies.
Doesn't sound like a bad combo
You
at
know the
all.
crazy thing is that
No.
I only eat lettuce when I prepare
Maybe on
it.
something.
I don't eat lettuce if I buy it somewhere else. I only eat lettuce if I prepare it. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me, but that's the way it is.
You're different from other people.
I'm very different.
Right.
Very particular. Corilla and saltfish. I did. Don't judge. So I come in.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it right here.
I'm on board too. Sign me up.
Good. We're good with that. Everything else, I'm leftover lobster. I am eating GT boy a little fancy. Leftover lobster. Shared. Well, last you had lobster.
Lobster.
We're in a different category over here.
Mm-hmm.
We talking
Was it
about
crab? Yeah, lobster. Crab. We see crab. We crab people.
Oh my goodness, as crazy as it is,
Right.
that's the way it is, guys. That's the way it is. Well, we're GT Boy, enjoy your lobster over there. I see Gladstone Matthews is joining us and Terrence Beaton in the house today. Fitz Gulliver. Hey Fitz, how are you doing over there? Fish too. Not bad, not bad. Very healthy for you. Get all your protein in there. Persons like me that's protein efficient, my body digests protein more. So says the experts.
Yep.
More efficiently than carbs.
Guys, we really want to say welcome to all of the folks who are now joining us. Welcome to all of the folks who are now joining us. Welcome. Somebody else for chart, but you are here nonetheless. Welcome, guys. So each and every one of you, wherever you're joining us from, here in the diaspora, right? You're in the pora, or you are at home in Guyana. Welcome. And Kim Walker says, Jumpy Bird curry tastes good. Jumpy Bird curry tastes good. Right? And we have to put that up there. We were so enlightened by that. Jumpy Bird curry. I don't know about that. Right? I hope. If the jumpy bird outside your body,
I
so
don't
damage.
I don't, guys. Listen.
Yeah?
The comments sometimes. The comments
yes.
are crazy in here.
Jumpy bird things.
I see Sunny Bowman is asking what I'm making for lunch. Absolutely nothing. I'm not even going to pretend otherwise.
You're just gonna eat out bushy like that.
I'm gonna make a call and see if somebody's gonna get me lunch.
John Rock can come in.
Oh my goodness! Because today is one of those days that I am not into that. So I'll have to be dependent on somebody to do lunch with me today. So
You see that?
Guys, how are you? How are you
Hint,
doing,
hint.
Mark? Mark Ferreira and Morel King. I see you there, Dawn Baines. How are you doing? Winston Henry is also in the house with us. And Suzanne is how do you say that name? I don't want to touch anything on this screen. Shared has a system here that
Where
does
is it?
not it's gone.
It's gone
I see
already.
Daphne Aaron
It's gone.
also with us right now. And Sherry Baskin Greenwich. It's going to be quite a discussion. It's going to be quite an
Yes,
interesting
yes,
discussion
yes.
today.
Folks, make the shares look nice. Only we asked
It
us.
says fruitful engagement with sections of the private
Yes,
sector.
yes. Well, a lot of people ask the question, right? What do AFC do?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were down there rock for 5 years.
They
Well, we
have
can tell you. Thanks for
emerged.
asking.
They have emerged, but the rock kind of hit them very
Yeah,
hard in
thanks for
the head.
asking. I want to be facetious, right? And I want to say some things in a braggadocious way.
I see
Right?
Alex Prowell and says Bartica in the house.
Bartica,
Bartica
yeah,
in
man.
and on. And so we're good to go. All
Bartica's,
right. Hey, Cecile Ogo. How are you doing? Good day to
Bartica's
you
just
too.
there.
Yeah, Barticians, you can't live with us. You can't live without us.
Two of them take over the morning program
Of
right now.
course, it was phenomenal. You need to go back
Right?
and look at that, guys.
Two of them.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I want to give a special shout out to the folks joining us in Region 1, in Region 8, and in Region 9. I was having some discussion with the folks in Region 9, and they are so thankful for the information that we bring them on a daily basis. And I have to say, we are so grateful that you take the time out to actually join the program every single day to make sure that you get credible information. You all are doing a phenomenal job at keeping up with what is going on. Thank you so much for your continued support. And the young people in Region One, Region One got some very very brilliant young people that have been speaking up and speaking out, and I have to say kudos to you all. We're gonna continue to give you our support, continue to help to elevate and amplify your voices all together.
Yes, yes.
All the support you need is right just a phone call away. So here we are. Thank you so much for joining us, Region 1 and Region 8.
Yeah.
No different, like I've been saying. You guys
Yeah.
make us all so very proud of everything that you have been doing. Continue to do the
Yeah.
good work.
Believe it or not, it's the first day of June, Jarita.
I know I've been marking it down on the calendar. June is my
First day of
month.
June, people, we getting big.
Yes.
And we learned too that we got a lot of June people, at least on the morning program. A lot of people who are June.
Yes, these June born, June babies, Gemini, Cancer folks all together.
Uh-huh.
We good people.
Mm-hmm.
We're very good people.
Folks, make the shares look nice for us.
Yes, I
Make me
think
look nice. Make me look
make it.
nice.
How do you say it, Sharon?
Don't get me with you looking.
Say it for me.
Huh?
You don't say make.
Make the shares look nice.
Make the shares look nice.
Make it look nice.
Just like that.
Please attack you. Make it look nice for people.
Hey,
Right? Make it look
I
nice.
see Orin, have you shared this yet? Orin, I know that I see Bazio in the comments saying there, good afternoon to you, Bazio. And Glennis Mingo Byrne, yes, Sharon, Glennis is doing her part to share the stream loop. And Loretta also is there saying good day to everyone. I know Tessa is joining us from Florida. And Tessa, make sure that you share the information so the folks that you have on your profile in Florida can also benefit from the discussion altogether.
Credible and valid information.
Only credible and
valid information. Well, we ain't wasting too much time today. We're not wasting too much time. We
At all.
wanna hear from the man of the moment. Should we talk to us about our guest today? I told you I was a surprise. Right? I told you I was a surprise.
Listen, I don't know
We're gonna have him in a second.
how Sherrod defined a surprise, but when we're talking about our guest today is quite a phenomenal individual in his own right. Quite the expert, and he is not afraid. I have a lot of admiration and respect
Yes,
for
yes,
this
it's two of
guest.
us.
He is extremely helpful, always available to do his bit and his part towards the development of our country altogether. So, guys, today we'll be having with us the former finance minister, Mr. Winston Jordan. And I
Yeah,
know you
yeah,
miss him. We all miss him so very
yeah,
much. The work that he has been doing has been so phenomenal,
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
2015 to 2020. And guys, what is going on right now? We cannot help
Mr. Jordan,
but
please hold for us.
miss Mr.
Yeah,
Jordan.
yeah, yeah. I know. I know a lot of people stifling the conscience. They miss Mr. Jordan. And we're so glad he's made himself and has always been available to us privately, publicly, on these varied economic issues. This is his forte. Former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan. Welcome to Below the Belt, sir. How are you doing?
I am here, Sharad. I'm speaking to you from my bed because I was on a program yesterday. That program. And after I finished the program, I felt a bit woozy. So I doctor and he prescribed get bed rest, some of the doses. So, but when you approached me to do this quick, I said I had to because it's a very important topic and so it helps to by some of the misinformation and so on that's been peddled throughout as a government, and it just accelerated after 11.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. Jordan, your audio is breaking up a little bit. I just want to make sure that our audience hearing you clearly. Let us know whether you're hearing our guests clearly. And somebody clearly don't know that we are on air from 12 to 1 every day because they're trying to call. And I can't receive that call right now. So it has to be some facetious person. Definitely so. Let us know if you guys are hearing Mr. Jordan clearly. Please and thank you. And let me just hold because we don't want folks to miss anything at all. Sister Mercy, we see you, and Robin Narayan, we see you. Wendy Rowland, we see you as well. Michael Gittins, Candy, let us know if you guys are hearing Mr. Jordan clearly. You were hearing him clearly. Let us know that because we don't want you guys to miss anything. Because we were going through the daily newspaper, and we saw a letter there from Mr. Jordan. Robin says not clearly. Mr. Jordan, let me try to call you back. You are breaking up a little bit. Let me try to call you back, and we'll see if we can get it clear. Apologies.
Okay, good.
Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna try to get that clear. We want to be crisp,
Especially with this
crisp.
this depth of information that
Yeah,
will be
we
discussed
really
here
want to be
today.
crisp. We really want to be crisp, right?
Guys, as we work out the technical aspect
Yeah.
on the back of it, here, the internet connectivity and quality thereof is something that is kind of out of our control a little bit. So we're going to try
Yeah.
to make sure that everything on our end is up and running to the optimal capacity from our end, and we'll be going back to get Mr. Jordan so that we can see if we can bring him in clearly without any disturbance, any delay altogether.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I see Desiree Emmanuel is in was sounding distant. So that is
All
something
right,
that
we're
we're
gonna try
gonna
to
look
fix
at.
that. Give us a second.
So we're working on it. We're working on it. Just have a little bit of patience, like you always do. And you've been doing a good job with the shares. Let me just give you some credit there. Guys, I see Carletta Reynolds in the comment section there today. Carletta, how have you been? This is a an anticipated discussion here with Mr. Jordan after that letter that was written and published in the Kaichur News. Mr. Jordan is also very familiar and has the facts available at his fingertips, and fact checking and fact bringing. That's what we do best. That is what we do best, guys. I see Linda Webster is here, and Linda Webster is saying, good afternoon to Mr. Duncan, Mr. Jordan, and viewers in Savitry. Zal is also here with us as we await this very highly anticipated discussion. And today, I see Wendy Ronalds is say it was breaking up. Yeah, Wendy, we're working on that. It's gonna be very clear very soon. So just make sure that You share the life so that other persons will be able to benefit from this very, very in-depth conversation. I see Linda Webster says, "Good morning, Miss Beautiful Jared." Oh, thank you so much, Linda. You were too kind, too very kind. And I see, guy. Well, you know what? I come in the comment section. I try my best not to miss your comments, guys, but sometimes it goes by so quickly. The Brenda Bradwit, I see you there. I see you. How are you doing? And I see you, Ben Morgan. Ben Morgan, I see all the dancing that is being done over there. I think persons are pretty excited to get in with the discussion
Yep.
with
Hold
Mr.
on. I want to
Jordan.
bring Mr. Jordan very quickly. So bear with
Yes.
us, guys.
I see Maxine Monroe is saying, "Welcome, Mr. Jordan, and the truth must be told, pace and
Yeah.
power."
Let me see if we can
And
do
we
another
are
way.
all about bringing facts, bringing the truth, giving clarification to disinformation.
Valid and credible information. Suffer that to be so for a second. It's going to help the
Suffer
audio.
that.
Suffer to be so. Mr. Jordan, welcome.
Look, thank you, Sherrod.
All right,
Yes.
welcome back. Rather, folks, let us know if you're hearing Mr. Jordan clear. You know, we always have we always try to find a workaround. We always try to find a workaround. Mr. Jordan, you were telling us how you're feeling, and you are on some so you're following some medical advice.
Yes, 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 yes. So so I'm here. But as I said, I had thought would accede to your request so as to give context and to clarify and explain, because I think a lot of misinformation is out there, and in sometimes we are our own worst enemy in that we are not forceful enough in presenting our case. So I am not going to be a part of that band, and wherever I can expose and clarify and so on, I will do so. As I said, I don't really
Fantastic.
become a star or movie star
Mhm,
or a social media star or letter, but
mhm,
I will try to clarify whenever I got the
mhm.
facts and put it out there and let the readers and the listeners and so on, let they be the ones to determine. I'm not about to win debating or brongy points.
Good, good, fantastic, fantastic. So, Mr. Norton, we saw this correspondence, this missive in the press. You are responding to something you had read that in itself had some misinformation you wanted to clarify. And when we read it at this end, we understand why these guys are pursuing you. We understand why these guys want you off the scene because you have a lot of information. You know how this system should be running. You understand economics. You understand the economy, and people can't pull wool over your eyes because you've been there, you've done that, and you know the system. Some people now trying to come and score, as you said, brownie points. And that is unfortunate. And so, in this letter we saw in Starbuck News, I guess it was may have been in some other publications as well. Just yesterday, the header for the letter says that the APNU AFC government had fruitful engagement with sections of the private sector. It is disingenuous for Mr. Govaya to claim his attempts to talk to the government, I think it was here, that were rebuffed. His attempts to talk to the government. And you did see here that you came across an article that was, let me read the first paragraph. The article, Catholic Church sees need for national healing amidst divisions, published on Sunday, Stabrook, the 5th, what am I saying here? May 29th, piqued your interest. And you say, in this, what? um, in this fractious society of ours, one hastens to read anything that recognizes the problem and provides credible, workable solution. You said, having read about 75% of the article, you came upon the following statement attributed to Jerry Govaya, the chairman of the Governance and Security Subcommittee of the Private Sector Commission, and we dare say too is an advisor on national security in the current regime, the current administration. And you pointed out here what piqued your interest, and there's an attribution here in that in that article that was published. It says here that the private sector, this is attributed to Jerry Govaya, the private sector will have to work with whichever government is in power. The private sector will like the government in power who pays attention to the things conducive to the private sector development. If you have a government that is raising taxes and refusing to meet with the private sector commission, then the private sector commission will not like you. You have to earn the respect of the Private Sector Commission, the PSC. Mr. Jordan, you didn't take too lightly to that. Talk to us about that. You didn't.
Yes, because I mean, I found the statement to be rather sanctimonious, highly, it coming like if the government elected by a people, must subsume its national interests to sectional interests and so forth. I mean, coming from somebody who's supposedly an advisor today in security, but who Sabek News was quoting him as the advice as chairman of some subcommittee and so on. I know the individual extremely well. Got to know him a lot more during the 5 years. He's one of those people who can move, who likes to think that he can move easily across the political divide, because at various functions you will see him there, and he's treated, as one of the family and so on, and he could easily slide over to the other side and continue to be treated as one of the family. But I can indicate to you, based on what he's written there, that was never really never really come across to me in my dealings with the Private Sector Commission, where he and an individual now who's a minister, junior minister in the existing government, um, appeared to be primus inter pares. Because every meeting that they came to with me, those two individuals were up front and above. They literally stole the show, because others in the meeting will beg them to, well, listen, we have to be participate and so on. There was always a listening. There was always a listening ear. I never terminated a meeting with the Private Sector Commission on the understanding that I got another meeting. I allowed the meeting to come to its own natural conclusion. Okay, just to listen to the private sector, just to hear what they got to say, just allow them to argue their case and so forth. So it was really such a disingenuous statement to claim that how you wanted to talk to the government wasn't talking to you. And as you saw in that statement, I quoted where the government itself had to come out with a press release about the behavior of the Private Sector Commission.
I want to talk to you about that too. I want to talk to you about the events surrounding that. And I'm happy you're here, Mr. Jordan, because too often times, as you said, these things are not rebutted when you hear people saying that APNU AFC was anti-private sector. And from everything you have told us, and it's out in the public now through this letter and other means, you've always been out here talking, that is far from the truth.
From I think in 2016, early, I was invited to a dinner of the, I believe it must have been the Ghana Manufacturing and Services Association. You never could tell because Private Sector Commission, GMSA, GCCI, they seem to have, some of them seem to have more or less the same therapy. But I'm almost sure it was the Ghana Manufacturing and Services Association. And I made it very clear in that speech that, look, what used to happen prior to 2015 will not continue in this regime, because there was a lot of complaints prior to 2015 that the then opposition leader, Mr. Granger, entertained concerning the conduct of the Private Sector Commission, and the apparently a number of its constituent members feeling that it was monopolized by what they call a clique, and their issues weren't being heard and so on. So at that dinner, I indicated very clearly that will come to an end. Where I am concerned, I will not conduct any backdoor meetings or any backdoor dealings with any individual from the private sector.
Therein lies the problem.
I will be open and I will be transparent. And if we have to give a concession, it will go to the sector, not to the individual. I made that very clear, very, very clear. So obviously that must have rubbed some people the wrong way, right? Especially that clique that appeared to be in charge of that commission, and the hostility exhibited by the PSC, thereafterwards, was unbecoming of any entity, much less a private sector commission.
Great.
Because what we were arguing for was equal treatment for all, rather than dealing with a specified
few.
Few.
Specified
exactly.
Great. Let's talk about the GSMA a little bit, because again, the notion is that, or what Mr. Jerry Govai has been trying to push, is that APNU AFC was anti-private sector. But you said here in this missive, you said you went so far as to gain cabinet approval to establish an interministerial committee to engage the Guyana Manufacturing Services Association in a structured manner.
Exactly.
That doesn't
If you if,
seem, like
if you
the posture of
recall,
somebody who
yeah,
anti-private sector.
if, if you recall in that same letter, Dominic Gaskin had written to the Private Sector Commission about establishing a public-private structured dialogue. And
Correct.
he said in his missive that he was never even favored with an acknowledgement of his letter by the
Mm.
Private Sector Commission. I
Yeah.
referenced that in the letter.
We had an
Yeah,
agenda.
in your words here, the formal proposal for the establishment of a public-private dialogue body to examine matters of economic importance, but had not been favored by with the courtesy of an acknowledgement, nor a response from the private sector commission. So we see a lot of work here, a lot of reaching out from the government to engage the private sector. Sir,
Correct.
let us, if you might want to comment on that, expand on that.
Yes.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, because I said after he got that cold shoulder, I decided that the Private Sector Commission comprised a number of groups,
Mm-hmm.
right? GMSA, GCCI, and so on. And manufacturing and services was critical to the propulsion of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to the Ghana Manufacturing and Services Association, and they were highly enthusiastic about that reaching out. And we set up a structured format for meeting the GMSC. So we had three prominent members of that: myself, Trotman as the Minister of Natural Resources, and business.
Mm-hmm.
And we will co-opt ministers depending on the sector, because we were going by sector in examination, detailed examination.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a technical committee comprising members of the Office of the Budget at the Ministry of Finance, GRA, and the specific sector agencies. Like, for example, if we were dealing with lands issues, we would bring in people from the Gather Lands and Surveys Commission.
Mm-hmm.
If we were dealing with forestry issues, we'll bring in people from the Ghana Forestry Commission. And they will form the technical body that would prepare the papers for examination by the higher body of the ministers and the higher sector people from the GMSC. So we had in front of us evidence-based examination of the sector.
Yeah.
Not this thing where you turn up and you got a long shopping list of requests for concessions. And when you ask in searching question, it's as if we are interlopers. Why are we asking? Why we don't get the concession kind of story? And that has been the attitude of certain members of the Private Sector Commission.
Mm-hmm.
They bring a long shopping list, a laundry list of concessions that they want. And when you try to dig in and so on, you can't get a reasoned, rational, evidence-based response as to why this concession as opposed to this. How will it benefit the larger society? All those questions they are refusing to entertain.
Mm-hmm.
But with the structured GMSA dialogue, we had all of that cut and trust examination for the papers. And I could let the GMSA people at that time who were members of that committee tell you that they were quite happy with the approach, and that more important, the approach produced significant results. I also then began visiting a number of manufacturing entities, Baramo, the sawmilling entity on the highway that is I forget the guy who is running it now, but he's well known in the business. I visited that bakery at Coverdon, where I was able to get the people at Coverdon, let them know that they were private sector facilities at the international institutions for which Guyana was a member, that they can access. And I had told them my office is prepared to guide them through the process. And when the head of the IDB Invest, who came here recently, but when he came on my stewardship, I told him in no uncertain terms that this partial approach of attending only to the regular private sector commission got to stop. and they have to go and reach out to other people who are not members of the private sector commission or
Correct.
whose voices are not being
Correct.
heard.
Correct.
That is why people like Miss Butters, God rest the dead,
Yes, with the fish company.
with the fish company, she
Yeah.
was able to approach the IDB Invest.
Mm-hmm.
That is why the Covenant Bakery was able to approach the IDB Invest.
That's big,
And
big.
he was, I believe he was on the verge of being considered favorably when he
Them
pulled
big,
out.
I think it is.
When he pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? When he pulled out, the Sonam Finance, I hope, is Jurita, are you
Yes.
part of
No,
that group?
no,
The
sir.
finance
No,
group?
sir. Negative.
No, don't run quickly negative. You know, it's a very progressive group. They
No, I'm not.
went,
I'm not. I'm not.
they went to the same IDB Invest, and they got a $2 million loan. This is a Sonam group
Mm-hmm.
to establish in Guyana a modern bakery. They did this in 2020 or I think early 2021. They got a $2 million loan to establish in Guyana a modern bakery that will produce all kind of different slices, all kind of different kinds of breads, and so forth. That is what I was pushing our private sector to get into. But there is this Sonam company now that is going to be way ahead of the rest of the crowd. They are already in Guyana selling those bread in Church Street, I think, at that place, the finance bread. You might not have known, but close to Common Street in Church Street, you can go there and get their bread and so forth. Right? So that is what we were all trying to do. I was able to bring relief to the Baramo group because they know that group was suffering. And as I said in my letter, as a result of the dialogue, we were able to impose different tariffs on pine wood because
Correct.
it was
Correct.
evident to us that pine wood was killing
Correct.
our local industry and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So they were structured dialogue. We met with GGDMA. We had our issues with GGDMA, but they could tell you at the end of the day the regime that was in there prior to yesterday's destruction of it was as a result of the recommendations made by the GGDMA.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we met with not only with GGDMA, we met with the Women Miners Association, and we met with a group that were formed by themselves who felt that their interests weren't being represented. And we were able to put in place a regime superior to the one that they had because they had a 1-year regime going, and we put it into a 3-year regime where they were going to get duty-free fuel and all these kinds of things. We signed it with the Ghana Revenue Authority and them, and also the GGMC and the GA. Okay, all of those things took place. All of those things took place, and I always continue to be shocked when certain elements of the private sector talk about they had an adversarial relationship with the government because it continues a particular trend, as I related in that letter,
Yep.
that they appear to be serving a different master.
And you were important. You are keen rather to point out that this was not the entire private sector. It was a small cabal in the private
Yes,
sector, which takes
exactly.
us to this adversarial relationship, which seems to have started with an attempt to embarrass the government. Tell us about
Yes,
that, Mr. Jordan.
it was very plain. It was very plain. They didn't like the government. Okay, obviously everybody feels that this country must be run by one kind of party and one kind of people. So when you had what appears to be that loss in 2015 for them, some of them came in with this view: this government cannot succeed because if it succeeds, then we people will be out of power. And so they started the undermining like what ants of the government. I tell you, were it not for the strength that was brought, particularly in that economic field, perhaps we might have collapsed. When they couldn't collapse the government through economy, they collapsed it through the all worn out thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody know Christ. Christ got betrayed by Judas. Christ wasn't betrayed because of his good works. He was betrayed for other reasons. And our coalition government was betrayed for other reasons, not for the good works. The very man who betrayed us, as you well remember, he had one of the most fantastic speeches
Yep. Yep. Yep.
for the 2019 budget.
Yep.
Right?
Correct is right.
And then Toronto will betray you. So it had and then certain kind of people who control this economy. So they start by pulling back the investments in the economy. Okay, then you saw the manipulation of the rate. You remember one man how the rate reached 500 by the end of
Yep, yep.
2017 and so forth.
The
Well,
foreign
none of that
exchange.
happened.
Yep.
None of that happened. The economy was well managed, as I maintain in there. It grew every year up to 5.2% in 2019 without no natural resource income. Inflation was held in check.
Correct.
Held in check because people don't seem to understand. No matter what increase you get in salary, if it's followed by a similar increase in inflation, then your net effect is zero. But you were getting high increases in salary in the context of very low inflation. So you were better off at the end of the day. We had manageable debt. We weren't going to borrow all over the place like you're heading good because you claim now your debt is 16% of GDP. People don't seem to understand one thing. Your debt may appear to be 16% of GDP, but the bulk of your GDP, you don't control it. You don't control your oil GDP. So when you are measuring your debt in terms of overall GDP instead of measuring it against the non-oil GDP, then you know down the road, if there's a collapse in oil prices, we are going to be in desperate straits. But that's for another meeting. All that we did was done in a strong macroeconomic framework that you can pay those kinds of salaries that we paid without exacerbating inflation in the country. And given you had on your backs the people who were trying to sabotage the economy, sabotage the exchange rate and so forth. When you had to deal with the Gaisucos of this world, you had to deal with the rice sector that lost the Venezuelan market. You had to deal with an avaricious neighbor where you had to divert resources, diplomatic and other, to get them to cool down and so forth. All of that. And we still brought national development across the board in this country.
Correct.
Across the board.
Which makes me wonder, and I think the common person would wonder, when these sections of the private sector, these individuals who tried to sabotage, as you rightfully said, when they say there was lack of confidence in the man of the government in managing the economy, as you said, we had natural resources to the extent we have it now, and the money, right? Them boys got free reign now. They got all of that money, and people still crying out. What do these people say?
Well, Sarah, I'm leaving that one for another program that we will do. But that is why I couched my letter in a way that I didn't measure what we did against what is happening today, because I figured even the average reader will say, my God, compare that with what is happening today. Okay? Because what you have is more of the same. Give away this, give away that, give away that. It ain't working. You now reach a full stop in fuel. Now you're telling people, well, listen, we can't go any further. So you now got to bear that. You got to bear that. You understand? And I think what is important in my letter is the fact that when he complains about, for example, putting a VAT on domestic travel.
Yeah.
Right? Fine, we did indeed put a VAT on domestic travel. Mr. Gouveia should have come out and said, as a result of that VAT, the domestic travel dropped by 50%, 35%, 20%, whatever the percentage he wanted to say. But he wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
And as I said, he was disingenuous because he didn't say that residents of the hinterland and interior riverine areas, they were exempted from the payment of the VAT.
Wow.
The law is there. They were exempted from the payment of the VAT.
This was as a result of COVID, or this was prior, and then there was an additional.
Remember, this is the 2019 budget. The 2018 budget. I think it's the 20 or 2017. So this is before COVID.
And then there was another removal of VAT. I know from hinterland travel or from travel.
Yes, but I'm saying to you, the removal of the VAT from hinterland, that was made in 2020, I think around April or May, in the context of the COVID. We removed all of that. And yet still, I remember last year, around October, November, when Ali, Walrun, and all them were berating the Aircraft Owners Association that there was no VAT on these things, and yet still the fares remain high. Right? It's $65,000 to go to Kaitro Falls.
Yep. Yeah. Uh,
And there's no VAT.
uh, former Minister Jordan, as part of this engagement with the private sector, in particular the GSMA, you outline here that certain things were so engaging was the administration with sectors of the private sector, sections of the private sector. Some of that filtered into the budget in 2018, for instance. We did talk about the restriction of importation on pine wood and the increased tariff and all of that, the exemption from VAT of logs and rough lumber, financing of a foreign inventory, the setting aside of an initial 50 million to partner with the private sector in a public-private partnership to establish the Denison stockyard. You go on to talk about some engagement also with the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association and what came out of that as well.
Yes. And I could tell you we had engagements with TAG, Tourism Association of Guyana, fisheries, all these different things we had engagements with. But more important is that people used to send me little notes. People will call me and they will say, don't use my name, don't mention, but listen, you're doing a good job and so on. But look, you should look at this, you should look at that, and so forth. Those people exist today, and I will not call their name
Yeah.
because of the kind of environment that you have, and it will kill their business. But then as a result of those quiet things, I used to jot them down, and come budget time, I used to discuss them with the Commissioner General and whoever else, and so forth, and then refine them and put them in the budget. You can't depend on somebody who don't want to work with you.
Correct, is
But
right.
we never once cut them off, even though we know they don't want to work with us. We never once cut them off. We never once cut them off, right? And in fact, I think coming towards the last budget, they became so arrogant that even when they were invited, I think was to the budget meetings or so on, they didn't even attend. They always got some excuse of the president is out of the country, this one is this, and so on. So I think they never even turned up. Right? I was trying to check back my notes and so on, but it's like in my head saying that they never even bothered to turn up because by then, the game was already open. It was already open, right, about their stance and so forth.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
we were into that no confidence motion, so they felt that they didn't have to engage with a government that was still in power.
Yeah. You talked early on about this implementation of VAT, the PPP, introduced the value added tax at a rate of 16% on January 1, 2007. And you talked as well as you pointed to some studies that were undertaken that prescribed some measures that needed to be undertaken, but the PP, frankly, didn't have the balls to do it to really and truly set us on a better economic path that we were on. You talked about the Duke report that was commissioned under the PPP. You talked as well about the two studies by the IMF and a local committee on tax reform. Tell us about
Yes.
those initiatives.
Yes. Well, of course, the Duke study that was done under the PPP really laid out in swift order the problems that they were having with the tax system, the huge exemptions, arbitrary exemptions, and so on, and what the government should be doing. They avoided that study like the plague. When we came in, we set up a local committee. If you remember, Christopher Ram was on that committee. Maurice Odell was on that committee. Our Commissioner General, Stacia, was on that committee. And this guy from UG, Dr. What's the young guy name? I always keep forgetting his name. He did the ILO study on the sugar thing. Juliette, you remember him?
Dr. Singh, I believe.
Dr. Singh, Thomas Singh.
Yes.
Thomas,
Correct.
right? They were the four members of the committee. And they produced a report. We went through the report at the cabinet level and so on. Some of their recommendations were concerning. Some of them would have probably got us in trouble. So we said, listen, let us get a second opinion. So we commissioned another report from the IMF CARTAC division. CARTAC is the Caribbean Technical Assistance Center that is housed in Barbados. Okay? So they came, they did a study. And surprisingly, both studies, the local guys and CARTAC, they had more or less similar recommendations. They differed in a couple of areas and so on. And so we began now to begin the process of implementation of the recommendation. I remember being chastised even by Christopher Ram that we weren't going far enough in the recommendations and so forth. But the recommendations you couldn't just do all one time. You have to slice them up over a period of time. And that is the point I was trying to get across. Don't expect us to just go and shock the system by throwing all these recommendations in there. I mean, we did as much we could in the 2017 report when we gave some, and then we tried broadening the tax base when we brought in value-added tax on water, value-added tax on electricity, and value-added tax on private education. Okay, but all those things that we did, we were careful to make certain that this VAT will not fall on those people at the bottom. And so, while a VAT was brought in on electricity, it was after you would have consumed a certain amount, which was way above what the average person will consume. Similar with water. It will require multiple black tanks, as we used to say, for you to get to the required level before you began paying VAT and so on. So it just came across as if, we were doing people use it as a thing of saying, they put VAT on what? What next they're gonna put VAT on? They're gonna put VAT on the dead or some sort of thing. But the only way to bring down rates, unless you got a big natural resource from billions of dollars where you're gonna just throw it in the economy as you destroy the tax system, is to broaden the base as far as possible. Broaden the base. And broadening that base includes reducing rates, eliminating exemptions and concessions as far as practicable, having a very strong, enhanced tax administration system. And we did a lot of things for the tax administration system, including bringing stamping of alcohol, a different regime for taxing tobacco, all these different, getting rid of smuggling. You know who smuggles in this country. So once you go after smuggling, whether it's fuel or goods or so on, you can get a backlash. But we weren't afraid of doing it.
You had the courage to do it.
You had the courage to do it. Yeah. And today, when you have places like DDL, Banks IH, and all these other places that are recording super profits, part of that is because of the regime that we put in place, where we had reduced the company income tax from 30% to 25%. In that short period of time for manufacturing companies, because we wanted them to grow and be able to export. And where we had reduced smuggling, so all those alcohol that was coming in free, you go to all them different nightclubs and so on, and a lot of the alcohol was smuggled, right? And undermining our own local industries and undermining employment and trade and everything. We were able to put a big dent, not completely, but a big dent. As you know, how much raids that GRA has gone on when they were shot at and all these kinds of different stories. In particular, all of that allowed DDL and banks and all these different places to flourish in a renewed environment.
You talk about
that took their thing to Shandy, for example. People don't know. Shandy is now. They made Mr. Duku had made whoever would listen to him about Shandy not being a regular drink in the shandies of outside and so on. And finally, we agreed. And so we dramatically lowered the excise tax on that, on the pandemic wines, something wines, right? For other fermented beverages, all these.
Pandama.
Pandama wines, and all these now benefited from a relatively easy regime. Again, as I said to you, all of this was being done not with this massive amount of natural resources that you got here that you could look forward to. This is where you were managing an economy within the resources that can be gathered reasonably from the economy.
Yep, and you did see here that this list of things that were done, engagement with the private sector, in this laundry list of interventions, it represented an impressive and diverse array of concessions to all sectors. Quite interestingly, to businesses, whether a micro or small, Pandama, for instance, is a small business for all intents and purposes, micro, small, medium, or large, and to individuals, whether in the public or private sector, And all of this was done without the benefit of our resources and within the context of a very low inflation rate. That's what I really want to come to. The context of a very low inflation rate, averaging only 2%, and a manageable fiscal deficit and a low debt to GDP ratio, 33.2% at the end of 2019. How? This is nothing short of a miracle. St. Jordan, nothing short of a miracle here. You said the economy grew every year with the highest growth rate of 5.2 being recorded in 2019, St. Jordan.
That's sometimes you don't, Sharon. When people strip away all the politics and all this kind of story and be dispassionate, you will find an economy over that period that was well managed. This is not blowing trumpet or anything. The numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The international institutions' reports on Guyana speak for themselves. Look, Sharon, I walked into courts a couple of years ago, and everybody flocked me. Not from being Minister of Finance. They said, listen, you got to do something for us. I said, what is that? They said, man, the tax in our vacation allowance or whatever allowance they call it. And y'all giving free vacation allowance to public sector employees. I said, you know something? You're right, this kind of discrimination must stop. And that same bulletin can be brought out. We removed the discrimination. We gave the private sector employees exactly what we were giving the public sector employees. Vacation, tax-free vacation up to the level of their salary, of their 1 month salary, and so forth. And you can go through. I am telling you, sir, the 5 budget speeches are there. Go through. I was going through them even just now as I know I'm coming on this program. And I realized I can't even begin to mention the raft of concessions that we gave to the private sector, that we gave to businesses, that we gave to individuals.
And now,
2+ years.
Yeah.
2+ years, or 2 years almost already for this regime. And what has been done for labor? Beyond a paltry 7% salary increase that was eaten back by the taxes and inflation, and a paltry increase in the threshold.
That is correct. The 7%.
Nearly 2 years.
That is correct, Mr. Jordan.
Yes, and meanwhile, you have billions and billions of dollars that are being given to individuals and sectors.
That's what we asked.
Individuals and billions,
yesterday.
But no worker in the public sector or private sector, they're dilly-dallying over paying $60,000 to a security guard. That poor woman who lost her 3 children probably getting $4,000, which is the minimum wage. And they're dilly-dallying over paying $60,000. Dilly-dallying. That $60,000 was being discussed under the coalition government. Under the coalition, were it not for the new government, would have been implemented in 2019. The regime for the workers remain more or less the same that the coalition put in how many years ago, right? The marginal rate is 28% and 40%, and your threshold is 1/3 or whatever, which is Ohio. We had a model 1/3 of your income, Sharon. Otherwise, if you get $100,000, if you were working with $300,000, you would have been subjected to the same 50,000 that we came in 2015 and met. Whereas our regime gave you 1/3. That's $100,000 that you could safely bank before we start talking about taxes.
Wow.
All of that we did. And that remains the same regime that they are implementing right now. They have done nothing for any worker, private sector or public sector. Nothing. You check. This is not gaff. Go and check.
Because
the 7% have been wiped out.
What we were asking, we saw a phrase yesterday, for difficult times. That's why our fisher folk, who we love dearly, were being given 150,000 each for about, I think 5,000 persons is the figure I think we saw at this end. And we were just wondering that when some other folks getting something for the difficult times, people in the private sector and so people in the public sector and so on, when something coming for them for the difficult times, as things sharing out, we see 2 billion gone to, as you said, some segments of the mining sector, for the difficult times. But I think what you've articulated, the APNU AFC government tried to do is to allow the rising tide to float all boats. But there's only some boats floating now.
Precisely, Sharon. Precisely. precisely. We try to give meaning to that very saying. Let the rising tide float all boats. And you know, Sharon and Jurito, we take a beating up to today from the knowledgeable and the unknowing who claim that we went and do other people's communities
Yeah.
and
That
left
is
our
so
own.
Yeah.
true. That is
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
That is so
We
true.
taking a licking today.
Hmm.
Yeah.
A licking we taking today
Yeah.
because of that. Huh? Because of that. And maybe they're going to decide, well, that ain't going to happen to us. So we are going to deal only with partial and parties on development.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That was not Mr. Granger's thing to us. All all sectors, as far as possible, had to benefit in something. And we had to take account of the fact that those at the bottom were the ones who felt it the most.
Correct.
And that was reflected in the way we gave salary increases.
Mm.
Right? That was reflected in the way how we gave salary increases and how we
Mr.
treated with the poor
Mr. Jordan, you said
and
salary
those with
increases,
less
and it sounds
fortunate
strange to me.
circumstances.
You said the phrase salary increases, and it sounds strange to me. I don't hear that a lot.
Mhm. Even the 7%, as Mr. Jordan was
Salary
just saying,
increases.
was not as across the board as it was touted to be, because we still have issues with regional chairman, vice chairman, and so forth, that has not gotten that. The fact that the retro was given and it was not tax free and all of those things, and the whole manner in which it was and distributed, it's crazy. It's just like persons just go in there and they don't want to do the work that was put in by Mr. Jordan to make sure that when this is done, that the disparity and the gap between the rich and the poor is not a gap that is
Yeah.
widening.
Yeah.
That's why it was done in such a structured way. But when you just go out there and you say, oh, 7% across the board, you are not doing anything beneficial when it comes to that, because what you're doing is empowering and furthering, enabling that gap to be widened. And this is the manner in which they've been doing every single thing. So Mr. George is absolutely correct. But one of the things that I just want to weigh in on also is the fact of the private sector, and the fact that the method that was used under the APNU administration was a method that persons that were not even members of the private sector commission could have benefited from that, because so many businesses, and I always make the point that sometimes when we hear a lot of the comments that are coming out of these bodies, this particular body, it represents the thoughts of a few discontented persons at the very top and not the entire body. And I always make the point that small and medium scale businesses are not benefiting from the 90% or more of these policy measures that are being announced on a daily basis. And people need to understand the dynamics that comes with it and understand the politics, because based on everything that Mr. Jordan said and that was articulated through his correspondence there to Starbuck News, it is absolutely clear that the contention was that he was not willing to go and with the kickbacks, and
Miss,
all of
Mr.
those manners.
Mr. Jordan, on Rita's point, these few, you said, it was just a few in the private sector who felt they weren't being engaged, and we understand why now clearer, based on what you have articulated. When I saw this attribution you have here in your letter to the press, attributed to Mr. Jerry Govaya, who is saying that the private sector will have to work with whichever government is in power. The private sector will like the government in power. Is Mr. Um, Govai even empowered to speak on behalf of the private sector? Because when last I checked, he wasn't the chairman, but he seems to be speaking very forcefully, you know, on who
Well,
like who and who unlike who and all kinds of stuff.
well, I wouldn't comment on that. That's for the private sector people to deal with. I will just stay strictly on point
Mhm,
and
mhm.
stay on the facts and let people judge for themselves. The braggadocio about private sector have to like the government, and the government have to like the private sector, and if we don't like you, we can do this and so on. I mean, you're
Mhm.
right. You said it. It's so puerile and infantile that it probably didn't want a second comment. Because you got a government elected by the electorate of all groups, diverse groups, and so on. You acknowledge that the private sector is an important player in development, but so is labor, so is cooperatives, so is civil society, and so are those who fall in the crack and they don't fall into any one of those labels, including perhaps Miss Flu. whose 3 trillion at the back, nobody don't even know that she exists at the back there. Who are representing those people there,
Yeah.
and in Plastic City and all those places that time forgot, and so on. They are also stakeholders. They don't have a voice, so we have to give voices to them. We have to give voices to them.
The
And
rising
this thing
tide.
pandering, and this thing about pandering to any group, whether it's the private sector or any other group, whether it's labor, because labor can have its own issues about highfalutin increases in salary that bears no relationship to growth in the economy or productivity of labor in the economy and so forth. You see in Trinidad right now, Trinidad has its own issues because Trinidad government is saying we can't pay what you're asking for because it is out of kilt with productivity, and so on. So any one of these groups that feel that, okay, well then if you don't do what we do, then don't forget elections coming and so on. Well, if people want to cave in to those, they can, as opposed to trying to reach negotiated compromises, which all of us should attempt to do. Because at the end of the day, when the economy caves in, you know where you're going to? The IMF. And then you're cussing out the IMF afterwards. You got your own economy to run now. You run it into the ground. Then you go to the bank of last resort and you want to tell the bank of last resort how they should treat with you. How they should treat with you. Instead of you treating with what you do right now. And I see it happening. Jagdo went to a press conference and he cussed out the man Sanzilo or whoever it is, who was merely reporting what exactly the advice the fund had given to us in relation to the NRF, the use of the NRF, and advice that we had taken on board for the use of the NRF money. It doesn't negate the fact that you have to ramp up development, and ramp up doesn't mean a sudden jolt into the economy. Ramp up means exactly what it means: a gradual acceleration in development, so as not to bring about Dutch disease, inflation, uncompetitiveness of your exports, turning the terms of trade inwards, and all these different things. A gradual ramp up, and to make certain that the investment that you are getting into will have that lasting effect. Not fly-by-night contractors building road, and in 2 months or so, one hole, then you hear about a sinkhole, then you hear about another thing, and so on. But lasting infrastructure like the Linden Highway, that with minimal maintenance was able to last 30, 40 years with minimal maintenance.
Yeah.
The Demerara Harbor Bridge, before it became what it is today, was almost maintenance free. So you want those kinds of infrastructure that will mean something, not because you're ramping up investment, that you're spending money while you're getting all kinds of 6 for 9, and then when the project is finished, you probably end up with a scale down where lots of money is sunk and you don't get any return from it, and you end up with all these bad projects where monies are sunk, but you don't get the benefits from them. And that is what the man was arguing for, that we pay careful attention. But we on this ramping up speed, ramp up. As if it's going. When you do that, you in some hurry to bring development to Guyana. You're not even thinking of the thing. Look, you building 2-lane roads when you're doing 10, 15,000 cars a year now on these little ones. You're doing 2-lane roads, so you're ending up with, and you're going through virgin territory, like the road where they just built from Mandela going south. You have an opportunity to build a flyover, which is a modern, and allow traffic to go at speeds of 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers per hour, because it's not in a built-up area. It's in an open plain, so you can go at high speed. You have the opportunity to do a flyover and exit into the communities as you go along. You have the opportunity to build 3 lanes on each side because of the huge traffic that you got. You building them little 2-lane choco things.
Yeah,
2-lane
and
things.
you got the money. The vision is in the air.
And before you know, you got long backup of traffic back to the circle, the roundabout. Here on many afternoons, you got long backup of traffic.
I'm surprised. Mr. John, I'm happy you raised that. The second thing I want to engage you on before we wrap up. that that road was declared open with big fanfare and half the road unfinished.
There you go.
It is mind-boggling to me. Half the road is not finished, but you had a big declaration of opening and progress, a big jumbie board at one section, and half the road is not finished.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, but you're in for tie ribbons or cut ribbons
I've
and
never seen that
manifesto
like that in my
promises.
life.
And that's why people keep driving over me because people keep going overboard. It's simply because they're of the expectation that this the road is completed, so they're just driving straight over.
It
You
is.
know, today's Stabrook News editorial talks about the chaos in traffic.
Yeah.
Don't know if you had a chance to read, but perhaps you'll read in time for tomorrow's show. The talk about it is a wonderful editorial. You should read it. Talks about the chaos in traffic, notwithstanding this thing with this other bill.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
chaotic, my friend. It is chaotic
Seem to have just
traffic. You when you coming
transferred the
from the
problem.
airport,
Yeah,
you hold your heart. You hold your heart coming from the airport. And sometimes you're happy if you can come in midnight, where you'll get into Georgetown faster. But if you come in an early morning flight,
hmm,
man, woe be unto you.
yeah, yeah,
Woe be unto you. And what they're doing is not helping. It's not helping because there are no bypasses, there are no anything. And these, as I said, these two lane on double lane on one side, roads ain't gonna cut mustard if you're talking about the future.
yeah.
They're not gonna cut mustard. Go to Trinidad and see what they did. They got I think 4 and 5 and 6 lanes on one side. And even then the traffic is back up from Port of Spain going in
Yeah,
going in.
and that's so true because your boy was saying that Trinidad falling apart, but at least you could see what it did with the oil resources when
Oh
you look
yes.
around, you could
Oh yes,
see
you go there, you see they got flyovers, they
they
got
did a couple
lanes
of
that you could
things.
run with speed,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
after all, you can't build these roads and all of them gonna go at 50 miles and 40 miles and 30 kilometers per hour. When you gonna reach?
they did a
When
couple
you
of
gonna
things.
reach? I mean, we're not even talking about the autobahn in Germany where you could go at any speed. You understand? But oh, you got these cars that you are building up today's cars can't go at 30 kilometers per hour. You kill the engine.
Yeah,
You
Mr.
kill the
Jordan,
engine and they can't go at 50 kilometers per hour for very long. You're also gonna kill the engine,
Mr.
But you
Jordan.
can't you have to build, especially in these virgin territories, you gotta use the opportunity to build flyovers, fast, fast running traffic. And then you come back down into the built up areas, you reduce your speed to the 50, 30 kilometers and so on. You can't be going 30 kilometers on a road that doesn't pass through any communities or any such thing,
Well,
you know?
it's them boys for you. Mr. Jordan, I want you to make sense of an issue for us. We talk about all these monies that are being poured into the economy now, the billions, who getting what, friends, family, and favorites, and so on. We saw yesterday, well, within the last week, the oil prices locally, gasoline has jumped yet again. And yesterday, we saw Vice President Jadjo saying that there is no more capacity or space for cuts in fuel. Everybody feeling the pinch, if not a squeeze, in this high cost of living. How do citizens make sense of this? There's no more space for fuel cuts.
Well, the first thing is this, Sherrod. You have no program. Your program seems to be forget everything that the coalition did. Okay, so day one you come in, and your priority was to remove the restriction on the import of certain kinds of cars. Okay, so you have every garbage that comes into the country now. Everybody owns at least one car. You have no public transportation that is worth talking about. In fact, you have no public transportation. The government owns no bus, no anything, right? Compare that with Barbados. That Barbados have just, I think, a year ago or so, they have put in a new fleet of buses that run on
Electricity.
green energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have no bus in this country, and they got little tiny roads and so forth. They could fall off the map and go into the ocean. You see, we have no public transportation. We are dependent on everybody to own a car. We have few roads, so you have this problem. Now, fuel prices are going up maximum. You have no conservation program. No conservation program. Because you are trying to allow people to buy cheap fuel. Everybody, every consumer, to buy cheap fuel as if prices are $50. But when you know But when prices are galloping like that, and when incomes are fixed more or less as they are right now, you have to cut back. And at a national level, you not because you got oil, natural resource fund, and so forth, but the Bank of Guyana has to use more and more of its reserves to import the same level of fuel. More and more. So Bank of Guyana will continue to be leaking reserves at the time when the non-oil economy is not performing. So you're going to have to now sell more and more of natural resource fund reserves to the Bank of Guyana. And that is how you're wasting our natural resources fund money on that one side. The government has to have a combination of programs that will result in conservation of fuel imports, whether it's the promotion of the electricity cars and all these things nice that are making about charging station. You check our budget, check the 2018 budget, you will see there we had removed duties and excise taxes and things on charging stations and so on. They laughed at us in Parliament. I remember a certain lady laughed at us.
And now they're seeing it as innovative.
Talking about electricity and charging stations and so on, right? They laughed at us. Now I see in the papers they have tenders out to build charging stations in Guyana.
Same people.
This is your time to have the last laugh.
Same people. Same people. Same people.
Yeah, but just to finish up on that one, yes. So you have to have comprehensive programs so that if the oil continues to rise like this, you're gonna have to be able to make the necessary adjustment based on the program. But nobody has rolled out a single program over the last year and a half in relation to what will happen to us if as he now said, you come to a dead stop with excise taxes and so on. Now you can't go any further. Prices are rising and so on. Well, me, as I could tell you right away, destroying the tax base is not a method. It's not a method. At all times in these circumstances here, you want to protect the vulnerable and the poor. Correct. Not the rich. The vulnerable and the poor. And you can't continue to look at the supply side when the demand is also. You allow the same demand to take place. You allow the same number of cars to come in. Right? You allow them to come in at low duties and whatnot, and the case may be, and so on. So you're flooding the market with more and more cars at a time when the prices of gasoline are going up, and when you're going to soon have problems paying for that fuel because of the non-oil exports not performing the way that you want to perform. So going to press conference and hello, we come to a dead end. We come to a dead end, and so we're going to look at other places. Now we can take off the fuel, the tax after the fuel. Look, Cheryl, I tell you two quick things. One, I don't know if they don't do quarterly reports, but it can be too long before we could wait for half-year report. Half-year report now come not till October, it seems. But I would love to see what has happened to our revenue base in light of all these giveaways and the expenditure that has gone on. And number two, before I go, please ask for this contract with the Damara Harbor Bridge. Something doesn't look right because Mr. Gulsuran is claiming that this bridge is going to be built now using monies from the Natural Resource Fund. And I find if he is right in saying that, we got problems with this contract that has been signed with the Chinese, because the tender that went out was never for us to finance the bridge. It was for the Chinese contractor to design, finance, and build the bridge. But if Mr. Gulswan is right, as he claimed in his Monday accountability column, that the government is now going to finance 100% of the cost of the bridge, then we have a problem. We have a problem. So y'all please ask that contract. Please ask for that contract so we could examine it and see what is in there. And I think the Americans, the British, the Europeans, everybody will be peeved if this is the scenario that has developed where the government will be paying 100% of that contract. Will be peeved. And we as citizens should be peeved, because if had they gone out there for a contract where we, the government, were going to finance the full cost of the bridge, that cost of the bridge would have been cheaper, because the contractor would not have to factor in other costs that include finance costs. The government would have been financed. That bridge might have come in at 220 million. We might have saved significant sums, and we would have had a more competitive bid of a diverse set of builders of bridges. So quickly, y'all need to ask to see that contract, to see whether Mr. Gulsaran is right or whether Mr. Gulsran was misinformed. But if he is right, I think we need to be raising Cain about this contract that they signed.
Fantastic. Foreign Minister Winston Jordan, we actually be part of our program, and in only a fashion that you can, you've turned it into a masterclass.
Correct.
And we are so grateful for all the information you've shared with us. And we know you have committed to being on our morning program again in the near future. We look forward to that. Have a speedy recovery as quickly as you can so that we can see you face to face, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks for joining the program.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Director.
Folks, that's our program. That's our time. The one and only former Minister of Finance.
Masterclass indeed.
Masterclass. Share the damn live stream and smash that emoji button. You're going to get information more credible than that. You're going to get information more valid than that, folks. Others need to know what's happening in this economy. When these jackabat trench-scrappers, tadpoles and cricketers talk about Apnu AFC don't like the private sector, come again. Wheel and come again. Take several seats. Please and thank you. Some of y'all wanted things for yourself. And y'all cronies and y'all own businesses to benefit. Y'all don't want the rising tide to float all boats. Right? But as Rita told me once, long time gone, short time soon come.
That is so correct. I know what I love about the way in which Mr. Jordan presents the information. He just stick to the facts, you know. He just bring it as is. This is the evidence, and you can go and check, and you can see it. It can be research in the public space, and there you have it. You can try to deny it all you want, but the evidence is there, the facts remain, and he dismantles the disinformation with such finesse.
You understand why they're harassing Mr. John with top bogus, fraudulent charges, with foolishness, wasting people's time? Man understands what he's doing. Y'all said, Jack, you bright way. If Jack, you bright, how this country falling apart like this. Look, get from here, yeah? Look, that's our time.
That's our time. That's our
Tonight,
time.
8 o'clock, with the ring punching it out.
That is correct, guys. Have an awesome remainder of the day until 8 p.m. tonight. Dawn, Gomes, and everyone else out there. Daphne Aaron, Shalon Joseph, Asani Bowman. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure to be with you. Have a good day, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good afternoon, folks. See you guys back this evening. Do partner with me. We got to keep the lights on and the open, people. Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, MMG, MoneyGram, Western Union. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. All right, we're going to see you guys back this evening. Have a great day.